Okay, so we're back, and as you've seen by the title, we're going to be working on the Spitfire engine today, which is a 2.5 litre straight six that we started over a year ago. Got it back from the machine shop probably about 2 months ago. Haven't started it, haven't done anything with it. I've been accumulating parts for it. Admittedly, I could have put the crankshaft in and done some bits already, but I haven't. So we're going to do that now. Got back from the machine shop, I covered it up, including the head and the crankshaft, and I've sort of buried them and left them to one side. We need to move these out of the way, one of our unfinished projects. We'll probably stick them up here, I reckon, with our bin, because they may as well go in the bin, because I'm getting fed up with prepping them for paint. Get it uncovered, turn the engine upside down. We need to get the crankshaft in tonight. I'm hoping I'm going to get the crankshaft in tonight, all buttoned up. Hopefully it turns freely and nicely, and also get the thrust washers in and check the thrust washer clearance to make sure that there is no issues there. So with that, I'm going to move all these bits and get the engine turned over so we can get started. Okay, so got a little bit carried away. I got it upside down like I said I was going to do. I've actually taken the caps off. As you remember in the last video, we labelled all the caps so we know exactly which one goes back where. I've taken some of the bearings out, the old bearings, and I've started to clean up the surface. We just need to make sure this is really, really clean. Obviously the bearing does not turn in this side. So when we were applying our assembly lube, we're not going to be putting it in this side. We're going to put the bearing in, then put the assembly lube on the inside. You can see the crankshaft moves within the bearing, not the bearing around it. If you ever heard the term like a spinner bearing, that's when the outer race of the bearing actually turns in the housing. So this bit here, rather than sitting flat, as you can see the bearing's still in there, actually turns. That would be a spun bearing. Obviously that can cause big issues, such as your oil ways are not going to be lubricating that crankshaft. So yes, spun bearings are bad. We've got to make sure them bearings stay where they are. They have a little locating tab to stop them from turning. As you can see, it's just this one's located in its tab, so that stops it from turning, which means you make sure you continue having your oil flow. Yeah, so what we're going to do here now, we're going to clean up all these surfaces. We're going to take this other bearing out, clean the surface, put the new ones in, and then we're going to put loads of assembly lube on them. Well, I say loads, a moderate amount, the amount that we should really have. So I've not got a massive tub of this stuff. I'm going for the Lucas assembly lube, which will do the job. Here's our crankshaft. This is all nice, newly ground. The machine shop provided bearings, small end, big end, and also our thrust washers. We're going to be measuring our thrust washer, or thrust clearance, once we've got the crankshaft in. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to stop blabbering on. I'm going to get the bearings in, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're at the point where I'm ready to plonk the crankshaft in. What I've done is I've put the new bearings in. As you can see, they are fitted. They are all allocated in their little holes as what they should be. And I've also applied a nice, generous layer of engine assembly paste. I've also fitted the thrust washers. They are held in currently using the assembly paste. It's really sticky stuff, so it holds them in place really well. So I'm just going to leave them in there like that and then plonk the crankshaft in. Obviously be careful not to knock them out, as it is something you can do. You'll know if you've knocked them out. There'll be a hell of a lot of crankshaft inflow when you check it. And also you'll probably find a thrust washer on the floor. So this is all clean and I'm very happy with it and ready to put the crankshaft in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I've given the crankshaft a once over. I've just made sure all of the surfaces that are going to be in contact, so the main bearing areas, are all clean and I haven't got any dirt on them. Obviously I'm working in my carport and it is filthy in here, so making sure that everything is clean is crucial when building an engine of any sort. This is really not an ideal environment to be doing it in, but it is all I've got. So we're going to throw the crankshaft in now and we will then prep the caps to have them put on. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, so that could not have gone any less wrongly. It went really well. Really odd way of putting that anyway. The crankshaft is in. Obviously I haven't tightened it up. I haven't put the caps on yet. I said I was going to do that in a minute, which I'm going to do in a minute. I am going to quickly check while I'm here to make sure my thrust washers are still in position. And as you can see down the bottom there, the thrust washers are still in position, which is great. I won't turn it. I have already turned it slightly. It turns lovely. It feels great. I don't want to move the frost washers. They did turn a little bit when I did that. So just if you do turn it, make sure your frost washers are in the correct position. I'm sure when you put the cap on, it would correct them, but it's just not worth it. Me doing it again. So yeah, now I've got to prep the caps to go back together, and this is obviously the same as what we've done before. We need to take the old bearing out, get rid of that, don't need that anymore, clean this area nice, and stick the new bearings in, and then stick some assembly lube on it, and then plonk it on the engine, or the block. Then we're going to get our torque settings up, which I have online, which I can't remember what they are currently off the top of my head, and then we're going to torque up all of the end caps in sequence if they need to be, which is good. So let's crack on with sorting these end caps out. Okay, so we're ready for the next part of our crankshaft installation. We've got our caps, they're obviously all labelled. It's on the other side. I will orientate them and put them in the correct places once I've got them upside down, but I won't do that until I've got both hands, which means I've got to put you lot down. We're going to put the caps on now. We're going to snug them into position, and then we're going to hand tight them, and then we'll be back to torque them up. So let's do that. Okay, so I've only put one cap in. I said I was going to put the lot in, but I'm just going to show the procedure that I'm going to do as I'm going through this. I'll put the first cap in. I've snugged them up. They're not torqued. They are just snugged up. They're like just hand tight with a ratchet, just like, yeah, that feels good. Stop there. And then what I'm doing is I'm just feeling the crankshaft, seeing how it moves. And I'll tell you what, that feels really nice and free, like you would expect. So long as it feels like that after every single one is installed, and obviously no movement in it, of course, which there isn't, which is perfect. We're going to fit the next one, next one, next one, and then we are done. Then we can go ahead and do our torquing of the crankshaft. These crank end caps, or main bearing caps, whatever you want to call them, are very tight going in between the actual block, so they don't just fall into position. What I am doing to fit these is I'm holding the cap up high, starting with threads, letting go of the cap, and then evenly distributing, tightening them up until it is flush with the block. As you can see on this one over here, it's nice and flush on the block, of course, because we've already nipped that one up. You could obviously put the cap in, hit it with a hammer a couple of times, mallet, you know, nice rubber hammer, nothing too dramatic, and get it in. But what you are risking doing is dislodging the bearing, which is why I don't want to do that. If I start hitting it with a hammer, I might move the bearing. At the end of the day, when you snug it up, yeah, it should all fall back into place. But if it doesn't, you know, there's always that what if. So I think the safest way to do it is to start the threads and just wind them in nice and slowly until you finally get to a point where they're both snugged up. Okay, so we are all torqued up. I didn't bother going through the whole procedure. It's pretty straightforward. All you got to do is torque them up evenly and gradually until you get to your specified torque value. I think I started at 20 Newton meters and then made my way up to like 40, 50, and then I think we finished around 81. I think it was we finished on, which is tight, but it's fine. This thing still turns absolutely fine. It's lovely. I've put the cap back on here. I've not put the bolts in or tightened it up or anything. I just got distracted. I saw it on the side. It was dirty. I needed to clean it. So I went out to the garage and I cleaned it, and it looks lovely now. But we haven't checked the inflow yet. So we need to do that next. That is the next thing that we are going to do. We've got a dial gauge indicator all the way over there, sitting on the bench, as you can see there, that I've borrowed from my mate at work. We're going to stick that on the end of the engine, and we're going to see how much inflow our engine has. Let's find out. Okay, so we've got our next bit done. We've got this little cap on. There is a gasket that goes in the bottom here, which I had to fit. And these are like sealing blocks that the manufacturer, or Triumph, decided to use to seal it up from the factory. I haven't got new ones of those, so what I have done is I've done a thin layer of like engine instant gasket, really good stuff. Just thin layer on there. I also done a thin layer on the bottom to hold the gasket in place, and also did a thin layer on the bottom of this. So this is all sealed together. I've also put a little bit of Loctite on these screw heads, these flathead screw heads. Really odd design. I think the reason they done this from the factory was so that they couldn't be over tightened. So I've done them by hand with a screwdriver and then put Loctite on them to make sure they don't come undone. Obviously, make sure you've got all your gasket material cleaned off of here on both sides. Before tightening these up, I used a flat edge across the block, and then I just tapped it across with a hammer to make sure this was flat against the block so that we don't have any raised edges. So this is all in line and should seal up perfectly when it's all back together. The next thing that we've got to do, realistically, we need to try and get the cover on the front or back, or the rear main seal cover on. We need to try and do that, which is this end. That's the next job, but we do need to change the seal in the rear main seal housing. So that is the next job, really. And I think I'm going to have to take that to work to press it out. So yeah, I'm going to get that all cleaned up and ready to take to work tomorrow, as I'm running out of time tonight. Oh, and one thing I did actually forget to mention is I have actually done the crankshaft thrust measurement. I forgot to record it, so that's my bad. I do apologise. This crank measured just under 1/8 of an inch. The criteria is between 6 and 8 thou, so it is within the criteria of being okay. As much as it is on the higher end, it is within the criteria, so this will be okay. As I mentioned a minute ago, the next job for us to do is going to be to do this cap, and I've just put that in engine assembly paste lube. Anyway, yes, so I've just taken this into the garage and I've given this a good clean up. We do have to fit the new seal to this, which I'm going to do tomorrow when I have a press at work. So the next clip will be at some point in the future, because I can't guarantee I'll be out here tomorrow. So yeah, have fun. Hello, well, it's been 2 days, not 1 day, and we've got a little bit of time this evening, so we're going to try and do a few little odd bits on the engine. Hopefully tonight we might be able to get the backing plate back on, get it back on the engine stand, so that we can do the rest of the work off of the ground. Yes, I've got a kneeling pad, but my knees still ache kneeling down on the floor, so let's get it off the floor as quickly as we can. We've got the rear main seal cover for the crankshaft here. I've given it a really nice clean up with a wire wheel and wire brush, and I've stuck a new seal in there, which is all nicely in there, all right. And I've also taken a little bit of time this evening before taking the camera out to clean up the surface area. I'm going to go over this with a little bit of damp, well, it's going to be a cloth with some brake cleaner on it, just to clean off any more contaminants. I'm going to do the same on this as well. And then we're going to put a little bit of instant gasket around here and around there. Then we'll put a paper gasket on, probably on this end, and then we'll put the cover on. And that should be on there forever then, which is great. And like, I know these things come standard with paper gaskets years ago. They didn't leak. They did. I just feel like modern day engines use an instant gasket on pretty much everything. A little bit of that isn't going to hurt us. Not only that, it's going to help keep the gaskets in place when we're putting components on. So as I was putting this on the other day, the two little gaskets that are in the corner, which honestly I don't really understand why they are there, other than the fact you don't want them to leak out the front here, but whatever. It's got a cover on there for that anyway. It just kept the gaskets in place nicely, so we're going to go ahead and use that same technique again. So let's clean these bits up and get them on. Okay, so I've done a very thin layer of instant gasket around the edge, put the gasket on top, and then we'll put a very thin layer of instant gasket around here as well. This won't set for a little while anyway, so I'm not in any mega rush to get it on. Obviously I need to get it on tonight. I'm going to do that now though. So all I'm going to do is get my hardware, get my bolts, little dribble of Loctite on them, get the cover on, be very careful not to mess up that gasket, maybe use a little bit of oil on the crankshaft end there, just to get that seal to go on nicely. And then yeah, stick the bolts in, tighten them up. That should be it. So we've got a cover on. We've got a little bit of dribble of oil on that crankshaft end, and a little bit around the face of the seal as well. And I'll tell you what, that fell on there, well, like it was meant to be. And of course it is, because it's the right seal for the right job, for the right part. So yeah, all we've got to do now is get our bolts in. I'm going to put all of these in hand tight, and then I just need to make sure that this stays level, because there will be a little bit of movement in this. And then we can snug them up. I'm not going to torque them up because, well, I'm pretty confident I can do them up without needing to torque these up. And then, yeah, we can move on to the next bit, which I think might be putting that backing plate on. So, yeah, let's crack on. All right, hear me out. I couldn't bring myself to put it on the engine without cleaning it. It was horrible. But after I cleaned it, I realised pretty quickly that it's going to rust. So now I'm painting it. Could have had it on the engine by now. Oh well, let's carry on. Okay, so we have a painted backing plate. I did inscribe what each side with GB and EN, so I know which side is which to make it easier for me to put it on the engine. So without having to look at old videos and that. Yeah, it's all pitted and horrible, but it is painted and hopefully won't go rusty anytime soon. So that is good enough for me. The engine needs to be functional at the end of the day. It doesn't need to be incredibly pretty. It just needs to be functional and look presentable, which that for me is good enough. So let's continue on with what we were doing. Let's get this backing plate on and then we can try and get it on the engine stand tonight. Let's crack on. Okay, so that job was nice and easy. Doesn't really need any explaining. Put a little bit of Loctite on the bolts, tighten them up till they felt right, and it's on. Now what we've got to do is get the engine crane backing part on the engine after we turn the engine up the right way. Actually, to be fair, no, we do need to turn it the right way because I've got the hangers. The engine is going to be suspended on the crane on the top, so we need to turn it over and then get the bit on back and hopefully lift it up and get it straight onto the engine stand, and that will make my life easier. Okay, so the engine is on a stand, which is good. Actually quite easy to do, to be fair, with the engine crane. It made my life a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, we have a block with a crankshaft in it on the stand, and all the rear bits are back together, so we can literally just focus on refitting all of the parts. The next thing for me to do is to fit pistons, because we've got some holes here and we have got some things to go in here. If we try and run the engine, we're going to just shoot air and fuel down there and it's not going to do anything. So we need to put the pistons in, which we have over here. And these are the new pistons. These are plus 60. So we've obviously rebored the engine. So they are the correct pistons that we need. We've got the matching piston rings and we've got our old pistons here. We're reusing the old conrods, mainly because there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. And at the end of the day, if there's nothing wrong with something, why change it? I could spend thousands on this engine. I already have spent thousands on this engine, but if I keep throwing money at it, it's going to be an endless pit. So things like this, when there's nothing wrong with a part and we're not going to be stressing the engine massively, it's not a track car or anything, it's still a road car that's going to be occasionally used, it's just going to have a little bit more grunt behind it, we are quite okay to reuse the old conrods. So that's what we're going to do. The new pistons came with their new gudgeon pin in them, so we don't need to source a new one of those. All we've literally got to do here is take out these C-clips, push the gudgeon pin out, and put the C-clips in the new piston with the new conrod on, using the new gudgeon pin, of course. So that's going to be the job we've got to do next. I don't actually have any C-clip pliers, I've just ordered a set. I have a set at work, but not here, so a little bit frustrating that I might not be able to do this tonight. I'm going to give it a go though. I'll probably end up losing it across the work garage, and then I'll have to order a new one. So let's see if we can do that. Okay, so we have managed to remove the pins, the gudgeon pins. Gudgeon pins? No, circlips. And we have removed the gudgeon pin, which is here. There's quite carboned on the ends here, as you can see, so it's a little bit of a pain to get out. Just had to give it a whack with a socket and a ratchet hammer. And we managed to get it out. Now all we've got to do is take the pin out of this one, put it onto our conrod and stick it all together. Obviously checking the clearance on this little bushing here, we need to make sure that that is going to be within tolerance. So yes. Okay, so I've removed the pistons from the conrods. We've got all of our circlips to the side. A couple of them did get bent because I removed them using a pick and not the circlip pliers. I have ordered replacements anyway, so it's nothing to worry about. And I have also ordered replacement little end bearings, or bushes as they are called, for the top of the conrods here to go onto our gudgeon pins. So everything will be refreshed other than the actual rods themselves. There's nothing wrong with those, so we're going to keep hold of those and use them again. Yeah, that's about as far as I'm going to get tonight. I'm going to stop. I've only got half an hour until I've got to leave to go to the missus now anyway. So I need to stop, which is brilliant. Yeah, I'm really happy with how we're getting on. Hopefully in the next clip we'll have the bushings fitted to the conrods. So I'm going to take those to work and fit those, because I'm assuming I have to press them in and press them out. So I will do that. Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, next clip will be that. Okay, we are back, and it has been quite a few months since our last clip. We had the little end bearings delivered, and we also had some circlips delivered. I also invested in a pair of nice remover pliers so that we could do the job nicely without using picks, which I wasn't very keen on doing to take it apart, but it didn't matter. Either way, we have everything ready to be reassembled. The conrods had to go down to the machining shop to have them suited to fit our gudgeon pins. It came with our new pistons, which is amazing. So we are now ready to put it all back together. The video is quite long already, and if I don't upload it now, it's going to be a long time before it's all uploaded together. So I'm going to upload this video now, and when we have more progress on the engine, we will then continue that progress, and I will share with you how we got on. So with that, please stay tuned for us on the next episode, where we're going to put these conrods together and hopefully have pistons on them, and maybe get them in that engine block that's over there underneath all that stuff. So with that, see you in the next one.